RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo, and just like last week, I'm joined by Richie Towell and Keith Treacy. Lads, how are you?
Oh, good, Raf.
Yeah, now, Keith, you've been doing this podcast with me for a good couple of seasons now, at least. There's something a bit different about the dynamic today now in comparison to even last week and all the other times you've been on. I don't know if you can put your finger on it now.
We're out in my back garden. We decided to do this in my shed. Looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Richie, I know you're kind of used to covering kilometres as a midfielder now. How many did you kind of cover to get in here now today?
Yeah, to be fair, it's not that far from me. It's only 20 minutes down the road, so no, it's a great setup in here. So you've done brilliant.
Yeah, now without labouring the point for people watching or listening, we're in the new podcast studio here in the middle of the RTE Sports Department. This is where we're going to be recording the podcast for the future, pretty much, unless there's some exceptional circumstances. And you'll be able to hear us a bit more clearly. You'll be able to see us a bit more clearly. And I apologise if you have to look at me in HD for going into the future. There is a complaints section on the RTE website anyway for that. We're not, in terms of no changes though, where you can find us, we're in the exact same places: RT.ie, YouTube, Spotify and Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also timestamps in the exact same places as well, the RTE website, and also the description box under every video on YouTube. And later on I'll be joined by Rachel Graham and Méabh and Búrca to preview the Women's Cup final, and on top of that they're going to pick their team of the season and also talk about a number of legends that are making their final farewells. But we'll get onto the agenda here before we get to the Portugal game in terms of Ireland's faltering World Cup qualifying campaign. The first thing, I was doing the player ratings for the Portugal game for the website, but that wasn't too bad because, you know, they actually performed quite well defensively. Now, I was doing the player ratings for the Armenia game last month. That was a much more arduous task, I have to say. But the one thing, if I had left school without being able to count beyond the number 5, I think it would have been okay, because some of the numbers out of 10 were quite low. And it did get me thinking, do players, Richie, pay attention to player ratings? Is it something that they look at in local newspapers, national newspapers, or on websites?
I think a few of the Ireland lads are still looking for you, Raf, after some of the ratings you give them.
Finn Azaz specifically.
It was something I never done personally. Look, as a football player, you know if you've had a good game, and you know if you've had a stinker, you most definitely know as well. So I always try to stay away from looking at player ratings and stuff like that. Now, I do know a lot of players that would be big into it, and they'd be on fan forums and all, and seeing what the fans are saying about them, seeing what the media are saying about them. And I used to always just think, no, I need to stay away from all that, because it can get to you psychologically. It can. So for me, like, I had it bad enough that all my best mates, if I had a stinker, they'd be the first ones to send me the player rating. Like, you got a 4 today, you did. I'd be like, thanks lads, appreciate that confidence on the floor. But it was something I always stayed away from, and always just tried to rely on my own self-knowledge that, look, I know I've had a good game, and I know I've had a bad game as well. Like.
Yeah, and Keith, was it a big deal in England at all?
I can only talk about myself. I don't think players, like, I would have gravitated towards a lot of the older players. I think I was just that way inclined. I was more comfortable in that type of environment. So the older players didn't, but I remember when I scored my first goal for Sheffield United, and I thought, I actually got taken off just after I scored it, and I thought, I'll go down and get the paper. There has to be something good written about me. And I got slapped on the wrist after that, Raf, and I realised, don't bother with this stuff. There's really only 1 or 2 opinions you need to care about: your manager and your coaches. And yeah, anything else is just diluting the opinion. So I think it's easier and more simple just to take your manager and your coach's advice. Yeah,
that obviously includes me as well in terms of dilution. Now, obviously, the World Cup qualifying campaign, match day 3 of it, was on Saturday night. So Republic of Ireland went to Portugal, and they put in what you had already predicted would be a valiant performance. We're halfway through the scenario where you feel, Keith, that Ireland will put it up against the stronger teams, and then they will falter, and we'll find out. We'll talk about what happens against Armenia tomorrow. But is there anything you took from that game that you feel, gives you a little bit more hope going into the Armenia game, even though they're very different challenges?
I can't say that I do, Raf, to be honest, and I don't want to be pessimistic. I think the lads have deserved the pat on the back. They deserve a bit of kudos because of the game, and of course there's always an underlying in this that we lost in the end. I don't think anybody can argue that it was the wrong result. I think the way it happened in the 91st minute going into stoppage time, it's a real sucker punch. But Portugal had an XG of over 3. Ronaldo hit the post, they missed a penalty, and again, I don't think it should have been a penalty. But Ireland did what they needed to do, and I don't think we learned anything new about the Irish team. I think we have Premier League defenders. I've called a couple of defenders out for not defending in the manner necessarily, but the mentality was right. They were prepared to struggle. Portugal were up near 70% possession. They restricted them to few chances. I know they had chances, but few chances, which are always going to give up against a quality side. But I'm more worried about Armenia. I can't labour the point with Portugal too much because I don't expect us to compete with Portugal. I don't expect us to go and beat Portugal. When we give a performance like we did, I say fair play, but we still lost. The Armenia one is the one in the back of the head where I'm thinking, is it a mentality shift? Do we think, oh, it's Armenia, so we don't have to work as hard? It's more about what we do on the ball. That's not the case. I remember we played France a couple of years ago when Pavard scored the goal. And I said, that's the blueprint for us moving forward. We need to be dogged, really, really rigid. I think the 5-4-1 suits us, but I don't think Irish fans will turn up to the Aviva thinking, let Armenia have the ball and we'll hit them when we can, because for some reason we have this mentality of we should be able to beat these nations. And I get that we should, but I think it's going to be a very different way to what people want in terms of getting people on the half turn, neat, nice, sexy football. It's going to be more dogs of war, get the ball into the box, get your head on the end of that, give them very, very little. It might not be nice to watch, but in the meantime, we might become a harder team to beat. And, when Armenia get an XG of 2.45 against you, you're way, way too easy to play against. And that's one of the things we obviously done really well against Portugal. But I point to Seamus Coleman coming in, and that's the only thing you can think, well, is that the difference? A real old school leader coming in, telling people where to be and what to do. And again, Nathan Collins did okay against Portugal, but if it takes a 37-year-old who's been around to tell you what to do and where to go, communication is a very easy thing. Nathan has the hard side of the game down. He just has to talk a little bit more and be a little bit more of a leader. And you understand that doesn't come naturally to people, but we need you. We need you, Nathan. You're a Premier League captain, and if you can't do it, we're looking around the rest of the squad and thinking if he can't do it, we really, really are struggling for leaders. So I think Seamus Coleman saying he had a point to prove. This is a fella who's played X amount of games in the Premier League. He's probably in the Everton Legends book. He's been around for years. Yeah, his people are saying he's 37, not sure what he has left, and he just, I have a point to prove. Nathan Collins doesn't go around like he's a point to prove. A lot of these lads who have fewer caps than Seamus Coleman, haven't played in the Premier League for as long, seem to walk around like peacocks and think, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that. Seamus Coleman felt like he had a point to prove. The whole of the Ireland team should feel like they have a point to prove, 1 point after 3 games.
Yeah, and Richie, in terms of the outball, because obviously they had the defensive side down in a certain sense, but they were using quite a simple enough game plan in terms of getting to Festy Ebosele and Chidozie Agbene. I think you've spoken to me before about how at Shamrock Rovers, in those type of scenarios where you're up against one of these top European teams, Neil Farrugia was just a solution Stephen Bradley used. So what did you make of how Hamer approached it in Lisbon with the options he had available?
Yeah, look, it was probably the obvious options, wasn't it, to play Festy and Ogbene on either wing, and like that, it was obvious you were going to sit in a low block and then try and get them on transition. But I just think you seen the way Portugal was set up. They knew that's exactly what was going to happen, and they were just snuffing out straight away. They were so. Look, as Keith said, it was always going to be a really tough game. But I was in similar comparison that I thought that Ireland would bring their A game against them. It's like when we go and play against the smaller nations that we think, right, we need to dominate possession, we need to play through the lines, we need to be this expansive team. That's not us. It never has been us. Like me and Keith and the rest of the pundits, we've been complaining over the last couple of weeks about lads not putting their bodies on the line. Was there a will to win? Lads smelling themselves, thinking they were too good. Against Portugal, because they couldn't, because of the type of opponent they were against, you're seeing it goes back to basics, bodies on the line, lads wanting to wear the green shirt. Like, obviously, we've referenced Seamus Coleman. I played with Seamus, lucky enough to play with Seamus under 21s. One of the best captains I've ever seen. Incredible person, incredible player. For me, Jason Malumbi coming in as well, really good. I played with Jason at Brighton. Another lad who absolutely loves to pull on that green jersey. It means absolutely everything. I know when he would have been left out of the last squad, he would have been absolutely spitting feathers, fuming. And you've probably seen in his performances over the last couple of weeks for his club, and then comes in for Ireland, and you just see the energy he brings. He puts his foot in. That's what we want. We don't want this, like what Keith said, like over-exuberant football where playing through the lines, yeah, it looks great, but we need to get back to basics. We need to have lads in the team that want to put their foot in. We need to win games. I know everybody's patting each other on the back, which the lads did. They deserved it. I thought they were absolutely tremendous over there. But we still didn't get a point in the game, which we probably deserved. Now we need to go and back that performance up, and we need to beat Armenia, and we need to beat them quite comfortably with it. Just to put a little statement out there, like.
Yeah, and getting Evan Ferguson into the game seemed to be a bit of an issue as well. How much do you kind of put it on him in terms of the forms? Because it was going to be very difficult. He's isolated, but at the same time, how much do you put it on the team?
In terms of
getting Ferguson into the game?
Yeah, well, look, it was always going to be difficult. We were always going to go back to front really early, and we did that. And the one thing that surprised me a little bit is that Portugal didn't seem to want to go after us in terms of the press. I think they were set up thinking they'll knock the ball around 2 or 3 passes and then it's coming to us. So they set off us a little bit. So it was always going to be really difficult for Evan. But I think that was the game plan we needed. We were always going to be like that. Like I said, I thought the 5 was really good. But these are the type of games that Evan is going to get more and more regular in an Irish game, where he's feeding off scraps, the ball's up around his jugular, he has to control them, it's mostly fighting balls. When he goes to Roma, they'll dominate the majority of games, it'll be a little bit easier. But in an Ireland jersey, Raf, for the foreseeable future, I don't see us being a possession-based team. I don't want to go back into the midfield and start labouring that point again, but we don't have technically gifted players, so I'm not going to be a possession-based side. I don't see anybody. Andrew Morden has gone to LA. Maybe he could come in and be one of them. But for the foreseeable future, it's going to be scrappy for Evan. It is going to be scrappy. So he's going to have to get that mindset and mentality when he comes into the Ireland camp. And I think a lot of the players do. I think Nathan Collins also. When you play for Brentford, Keith Andrews will want you to do a specific set of things. But when you play for Ireland, it's going to be a lot more simple. And as long as he keeps it simple, everything will be all right. But no, I wouldn't have any sort of criticism on Evan, because it was going to be difficult. He's up against Ruben Diaz and some of the best centre halves in the world, so no criticism. He worked as hard as he could, and he was feeding off scraps basically. Yeah,
and obviously Cuivine was brilliant as well in terms of the penalty save. Obviously, I think I've heard it mentioned somewhere as the leg of God or something as well, where he stopped that. And obviously following in the footsteps of Gavin Bazunu, who of course had done the same in terms of saving a Ronaldo penalty. Do you feel he could have done better maybe with the goal that Ruben Neves did actually score? Or was it a difficult one because the cross is not defended in, and he does have to come out at the same time?
I think the quality on the ball was incredible, and when I was watching the game, I was looking at Portugal had everything in front of Ireland, and I was thinking, if they want to score, they need to have a couple of runners into the box. And then Neves times his run absolutely perfect. It's a brilliant ball in. It's not a big loopy one in. It's kind of whipped in, it is, and it's like that. The keeper kind of gets caught in no man. If he comes out, he probably doesn't get there, and if he stays on his line, he has a simple header. So I think Cuivine's done absolutely brilliant in an Ireland jersey. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. One other thing I'd love to touch on is you're seeing the passion that Martinez was bringing for the port on the sideline. I was looking when Festi went in on the tackle and Martinez was in his face. I was looking around thinking, where's the Ireland manager here? Why is he not out backing his player? Because if that was my player on the pitch, I'd be dragging Martinez back, saying, get away from my player. And that's what you'd want even as a footballer on the pitch. But it seemed to be, not that he's accepted defeat, but he seemed to be just in his own box a little bit. I would have loved to see a little bit more passion out of him as well.
Yeah, maybe
if that was Roy Keane, if that was someone like Roy Keane, or like what we said, a Mick McCarthy or something like that, I guarantee you he'd be out of his little technical area and he'd be pulling Martinez back. He would.
Was Kelleher booked for the celebration after saving the penalty?
I think it was for slowing the game down. I think he was standing over a...
Yeah, I seen him, he sort of celebrated and Ronaldo was in the vicinity, and I seen the ref having a word, and I realised he had a yellow, and I thought, did he book him for that or was it for something else? I thought, but the ref I thought was fairly weak throughout, and the penalty decision, even Bernardo Silva's reaction when he gets asked, was it a penalty? So I haven't seen it. Was it a bit weak? Sort of tells you it was very, very weak. I mean, it's armpit at most. It's not handball. And I seen 3, 4, 5 angles of it, and I thought, I'm not convinced it's a penalty. Why wasn't VAR?
I was waiting for another angle for VAR to be like, no, this is why it is. I was thinking, you could see that O'Shea, the confidence he had. He was like, no, hit me chest. You could see straight away.
Yeah,
and I was thinking,
the Irish lads were saying, calm down. VAR will have a look. This will be overturned.
And it just kind of
really poor.
flick of a switch. It was just no penalty, go.
And of course, it would be swept under the carpet because Cuivine made a brilliant save. But if that had been the difference, that would have been a real sour taste.
Yeah, and just in terms of the ball in, actually, for that Ruben Neves goal. So Hamer Halgrimsson was talking about tiredness from an Irish point of view, but actually the nearest player is Mikey Johnston, who was a substitute. Yeah. He's obviously got a remit also to keep things narrow, and you've kind of played as a winger as well. It's a bit of a dilemma, isn't it, though, in terms of, do you push out at that point or do you try and keep the shape? Because he, I think it was Trincao who plays the ball in, could actually just pop a ball inside as well.
Yeah, it's really difficult because especially if you've only come onto the pitch and you feel like you have the legs and you can get out there and possibly block the cross, but you're also thinking if I go as a one, I could get popped off and they'll get in behind me and then they're into the 18-yard box. So you can totally understand it. It's one of those, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. He's decided to stay. You can now argue there's not enough pressure on the ball. That's why the ball in was of such quality. But you can totally understand it. And yeah, it's just one of those. They put an awful lot of those balls over the top of our defence, and they were never quite right. There was always a yard, and Queeveen read it well, and we dealt with it. But that was just on the money. And you can say Kelleher didn't do great. The defenders should have put more pressure. Sometimes you're just at the mercy of delivery, and you can, it could have been nipped in the bud. But I think sometimes you hold your hand up. Run was brilliant, timing was delivery, and delivery was excellent.
Yeah, and let's turn our attention more to the Armenia game now. So Hamer Hallgrimsson was speaking to Tony O'Donoghue at full time, and Hamer is wary of Armenia, although he probably has good reason given what happened in Yerevan.
Is that performance enough to restore the confidence that we've always been talking about? You have to go and win the game against Armenia now, clearly.
Your confidence is a tricky thing. You never know what gives you confidence or takes away your confidence. We should at least be happy with the team effort and the team performance today. But again, Armenia goes to Hungary and plays a game where it was an equal game. Could have gone both ways. Hungary scored the second goal in extra time as well. So that was a very difficult game for Hungary, just wary of what lies ahead of us. And now we just need to shift our focus to that game. Try to leave this here in Portugal and focus on recovery and be ready come Tuesday.
You'll be without Josh Cullen with that yellow. Significant loss. Will you retain that same shape, do you think, on Tuesday?
We'll see. At least this worked well against a good team like Portugal. We play them again at home in a month. They will definitely be preparing something against this if they play this again. But against Armenia, it's a different game. It's a different picture we see going into that game. But obviously, good that we can play against a strong team away. And lose the one goal, but at least be close to getting something from this match.
Yeah, that is Hamer Hallgrimsson there. And just on that match, it's live on RT2 and the RT Player. There's also live commentary on a specially extended Game On RT2 FM as well. And there'll be a live blog on rt.ie/sport. So just, I suppose, turning towards this game, obviously they mentioned Josh Cullen is suspended. So he is going to be replaced by Conor Coventry in the squad, who's actually in reasonable form. But more on how Ireland can adapt to these kind of situations. Like obviously in your punditry work, you do cover, and co-commentary as well, you cover, the likes of Scotland and other Northern Ireland as well. What is it about them where they seem to be able to get good results against teams of an equivalent level and where we seem to keep falling flat?
I think it's a more simplistic game plan. When I look at the Scottish, the 5-3-2 really suits them. And I know people be saying they've got McTominay, Gilmore, they've got Christie, they've got certain players that are of a level that we don't quite have, but you very rarely will highlight the individual. And I look at Wales the same. I think they're quite dogged in what they do. And again, people will be saying they've got Harry Wilson and one or two others that have that little bit of talent, but it's more the collective and they get the most out of what they have as a team. I think that's what we're lacking. Scotland sort of lean into what they are, and the Welsh lean into what they are, whereas we know what we are, but we think, but we need to do it this way. And I don't understand that managers and these modern coaches come in and think, I'm going to play this way, X, Y, or Z, and that's the be-all and end-all of it. Well, it's going to be dictated by what's in the dressing room, and you can go and bang your head off a wall all you want and say, I'm a 4-3-3 merchant, or this is what I'm going to do moving forward. If you don't have the tools at your disposal, you're not going to get it right, and there's very, very limited resources of what we've got. We can't be a possession-based team. We can drop back and we can soak up pressure because we have those defenders. But what you need is explosive pace on the wings, and we do have that. But with our wingers, I think we look at them and think they're out and out wingers. And I'm not talking about Chidozie in this, Ogbeni in this case. He can do a bit of defensive work, but Azaz, Johnson, Smodics, they don't really come back and do a shift defensively, which we can't afford to have any sort of luxury player to say, oh, well, you do your attacking work and don't really bother about the defensive work. We need to keep clean sheets. Clean sheets moving forward will win us games because we have Evan, we have Troy who's in good form. If Sammy Schmodics comes in, can do a little bit as well. We have players that can do a bit at the top end of the park, but they're going to be restricted in the chances and quality of chance that they get. So for me, be a really, really good defensive team, make people dread coming to the Aviva, make it horrible, bog it down, play for set pieces, do all that. And like Portugal did, if they drop off and think, oh, they're just going to shell it on top of us, now it's a bit loose. Now we can play a little bit of football, and you don't have to be a brilliantly technically gifted player when players are standing off you. So if we shell it for 10, 15 minutes and mix it up, one thing that grates on me, Raf, is for however long now, the last 3, 4, 5 years of Irish football, we have one style of play. The 4th minute and the 90th minute is all the same. It doesn't matter if we just conceded a goal. It doesn't matter if we just scored a goal, had somebody sent off, if somebody's done something stupid. We play the same way no matter what. We're not gifted enough to do that. We need to be reactive to everything that's happening in the game. And Sean Dyche was brilliant at Burnley, that you can see the goal for the next 10 minutes, we're in the red zone and everything goes. And if you have players that are on the same wavelength and think, we know because of what's just happened, we're not going to play, people start running into the channel before the ball's even in the channel. And it's like a race where you're the one who says go. And you put people under pressure, you wrestle yourself back into the game. And you know, you look at the Greeks last night, they were so comfortable within the game against Denmark, conceded 2 goals in the space of 60 seconds, and all of a sudden they're out of it. That's the type of stuff that happens with Ireland. And if we can eradicate silly mistakes, we can be a harder team to beat, and then that will give us a chance to do things in games. But at a minute, we're not really an attacking team. We're not a possession-based team. We're not a dogged defensive team. And again, the Portuguese result aside, or performance aside, we're sort of a little bit of everything, Raf. We haven't nailed down what we are yet. And I think that's probably one criticism you could throw at Hamer, is not sure what style of play, what team, you know, because it's been so chop-changey. Not sure what Hamer's preferred style is just yet.
Yeah, and just a final point on this game, just at the midfield area, Richie, because we saw Jason Malumbi, Josh Cullen, where they're sitting in and there's very little space, it actually kind of suited them. There will be more pressure because it is 100% a must win tomorrow, that Ireland will have to be more expansive, which will open up spaces. How worried are you about that area, especially if the game needs to open up? Because Armenia will sit back, as they did in Hungary, to reasonably good effect.
I'd be really worried, because that was a big thing when we played Armenia away, was the spaces between the centre halves and the strikers. The midfielders looked like they were left in no man's land. They didn't know when to press, they didn't know when to sit off, and like that, they were kind of just waiting there, and Armenia just played through the lines every single time. It was so worrying. It was. Obviously you have Josh Cullen that's going to miss the game. He's normally the one that never vacates that area. Are they going to switch it now and probably have Malumbi there? He probably has better legs than Cullen, so he can probably cover the ground a little bit more. And then, like what Keith said, do you bring in a luxury player like Finn Azaz, and hopefully his attacking threat kills Armenia? It's going to be a tough one. It is. People, and including myself, like, we're thinking, right, after that performance, we need to go on and win the game against Armenia. They're going to come here thinking, especially if they rewatch the previous game, they're going to think, we can go over here to the Aviva and beat this. It's going to be a great surface. And like what Keith said again, it's not an intimidating place to come. The stadium's nice, the dressing rooms are nice. Ireland try and play.
Ireland are nice.
Yeah, a nice brand of football. They're a nice team. They are, all right, we have the long throws now, but like, that's not enough. It's not, Raf, you know what I mean? You need to, like the Portugal game, you need to be dogged. You need to pull on that green jersey and feel 10 foot tall and think, you know what, I'm going to go out here and absolutely empty the tank. Look, technically, if I'm not great on the ball, or if I don't create many chances, but if I give it absolutely everything, that's all that people are going to ask for.
Yeah. And to be fair, Raf, if you're an Armenian thinking what sort of green shoots is there for them, Portugal had 77% of the ball in the second half. Every one of our players emptied the tank. Seamus Coleman, I don't think will be able to go again. If he does, he'd be at high risk of an injury. I think if we do that, we're being really, really selfish on him. Although he looked disgusted to be coming off late in the game, so maybe he'll want to play. I'd imagine he would. Ogbeni hasn't played an awful lot of football since his serious injury. Cullen is out. And the Armenians did quite well against Hungary. Although they got beat 2-0, they will have a little bit of confidence bouncing out of that one also. So it's going to be very, very difficult for us, Raf, and they have that muscle memory of only having just beaten us, and it could have been 3-1 as well. They had a goal chalked off late in the game for a minimal offside. So it's going to be difficult, and I worry about the Irish mentality going into it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's booking tickets to North America anyway. I think that was already, that would have been stalled as far back as September. But let's talk about the academy funding issue here, because the League of Ireland academies will receive $3 million in funding from the government in a new measure announced in budget 2026. The funding falls short of the €4.45 million million requested by the FAI in their pre-budget submission, but represents a big boost to the sport. The administration of the multi-annual funding will come through Sport Ireland rather than the FAI. And Jim Crawford, the Ireland under-21 manager, when he was reacting to it, he said there's going to be a significant difference to our academy structures with this investment. It's going to help football overall in our country. We've been boxing above our weight in terms of some of the results with our underage international teams and our clubs in Europe, but to have this input now going forward, it's been badly needed. I've said it all along that we need help in this country with regards to football, so it's a fantastic start, but that's all it is. And Alan Colley and David Myler were also discussing it in depth during the coverage of the Ireland under-21s against Slovakia on Friday night. And let's just have a quick listen to Alan Colley on just how the funding will be allocated.
And I suppose to answer David's question, or for people listening, they're going to evenly distribute the money at the start, which is the fairest way of doing it for all the clubs. And once the multi-annual kind of commitment has been made as well, Joanne, there'll be further audits going forward in terms of bringing it forward, depending probably on results and how you're implementing the money. And once the government are seeing results of that, more money could follow, which I think is the plan now that we're in the door. And then it's a case of maybe the better clubs, and we will have better clubs and middle of the ground clubs and lower kind of clubs, if you like. They will be categorised into different A, B, C, if you like, or 1, 2, 3.
And that is Alan Colley there discussing the allocation of funding. I think the obvious thing that has been discussed since this funding was announced is how it's going to help developing in players. Creating the industry in terms of coaching opportunities, Keith, though, that's a huge thing as well, just around the country. Yeah,
in terms of getting full-time coaches in it, it's absolutely massive. Only last week I went into my boyhood club Belvedere down in Clontarf for a while, and I had a little chin wag with some of the lads in there, and still a lot of people are voluntary level. And when I went to Blackburn at 15, I had full-time chefs and scientists and people that were pushing me to be the best I could be. And at these academies now, although it's all the best will in the world, you're at the mercy of somebody whether they want to get out better or not, because they're volunteers. It's not a full-time job. And while we're at that stage, it's always going to be difficult. I would be really interested. I think it's a little bit strange what Alan Colley is saying there, not his answer in terms of Shamrock Rovers and everybody's going to get the same at the start. It's going to be evenly distributed. So Shamrock Rovers, who's done so well in Europe, and I'm not saying they should be slapped on the wrist for their success on the pitch, but financially they're a lot better off than a lot of other people. And you would imagine the likes of Finn Harps or somebody else, there'll be other teams screaming for it, that it's their lifeblood. They need it. It's bread and butter on the table. So I think that's a little bit crazy that Shamrock Rovers would be getting the same as a Finn Harps. And that's not. I'm not having a dig at Shamrock Rovers. I'm just saying that
Rovers have kind of created like an ecosystem now where that kind of looks after itself. Like they've sold Victor Oshimvuna for a couple of million. They sold Gavin Bazunu for big money. They've sold Naj Raji. They sold who's the other one? Another one to Italy. They did so. Justin Ferrazoid, to Italy as well. So they've kind of recuperated some of that money already. So like what Keith's saying, and it's not to be harsh and say, Rovers, you're not getting anything. Like, that's not the case, but surely there's clubs like that Finn Harps who the lads probably don't even have a training pitch to train on, do you know what I mean? And they're getting an equal amount of money as what Shamrock Rovers is getting. So I can see it is a bit probably unfair because of the financials that Shamrock Rovers have in comparison to a Finn Harps or to an Athlone or however it is. So I can see exactly what Keith is saying there.
There's going to be a scaled down version of this, Raf. I know the plan was for 3 full-time staff to be in every academy. Yeah. That was if they'd have got the 4.45 in funding. So now it's down to 3 million. So I imagine this will be reacted and scaled down, and we'll see what that is. But look, on paper, it all looks really good, Raf, but I'm very anxious to see when we start seeing results on the ground, because we have a responsibility now to start churning out these players that, it was England did it, Italy did it, people on the continent done it for us. Now it's our responsibility. And when you look at the Irish team now, you think we need all the help we can get, and we need it now. Yet we're still waiting on academies. The funding is coming, everything is starting to get there, but there's going to be a lag between now and then. And you look at the Irish team and think, it's not going to get better anytime soon.
Yeah, but money definitely did need to float around, I suppose, because you mentioned the word ecosystem, which I think is a good word for it. To have an industry, you need some input in financially, and then obviously, as we see with the likes of Shamrock Rovers or Pats, who get it right in terms of producing the players to get the revenue back from clubs in England or wherever it is, that it then becomes a bit of a feedback loop then.
Yeah, and we have it perfect over here with Brexit that the lads can't go to England. Like, I went to England when I was 15. I'm sure you were the same, Keith, were you?
Yep.
You're gone at that age, and let's be realistic, your value is quite minimal at that age. You're probably getting 100 grand or maybe 150 grand. Your local club is, that's what the big boys in England were able to do back then. But now you see the likes of Michael Noonan, who still hasn't signed anywhere, youngest scorer in Europa League conference history. His values that are going through the roof, it is, and it's only going to continue to grow until he turns 18 and he can actually go. So we actually have a big opportunity over here to get the kids in at a young age and have them all the way up to their 18 and really, really put a market value on them that, like as we said, have that ecosystem. When you sell them, the money comes back into the club and it just runs itself then. But we only have, there's only 4% of clubs in Ireland that have a full-time coach. That's embarrassing, honestly. And in comparison to some of the other clubs that are similarly ranked to us, they have 46%. And that's not even looking at the likes of in England or a Holland or any of these clubs who are probably up at 70, 80, 90% have full-time coaches. So we're so far behind, it's incredible. I went over to Brighton and Hove Albion 2 weeks ago, Raf, just to see how their academy is structured and what they do with their younger kids. And I went over with my wife and she actually stayed in London. She'd done a bit of shopping while I went down. But it was Ian Buckman, who's the academy director there. He went through everything with me. We spent the full day, we did. And when I got back, I couldn't believe how far we are behind. It's actually, I feel so sorry for our kids over here who have to try and compete. Like, our under 21s are playing against England on the 14th of November. They haven't got anywhere near the level of coaching, the level of facilities, the level of opportunities to what the English and Irish kids have in comparison. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we need to bridge that gap, and we need to bridge it really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's why, I think from the players and also from Jim Crawford, the sense that they didn't beat Slovakia in the game on Friday, it ended up being a 2-2 draw, that it was a bit of a missed opportunity, and it can feel like that because England is coming up next. Yeah. Basically, Slovakia are the country that are probably the most likely to challenge us for the playoff place in that. But let's talk League of Ireland before we go. And I suppose first off, Shamrock Rovers probably had the champagne on ice, and Shelbourne had different ideas. Yeah, well, they still do, and they will be drinking from it at some point. But I know you were doing co-commentary on it, Keith. Shells have something to fight for, which is the thing that kind of gets forgotten, and also that bit of pride as well. And while they didn't have as much possession, they did pack more of a punch, particularly in the first half. Yeah,
no, like a lot of people were saying to me in the build, surely Shamrock Rovers will just have the bit between their teeth and they'll go and swat Shelbourne aside. But I always got great joy out of just being a party pooper when you're going to grounds and you see champagne is on ice and people are swaggering around. You're thinking, I'm going to spoil every bleeding minute of this. And to be fair, Shelbourne I thought were absolutely brilliant. They mixed their play up brilliantly. They went short when they needed to. They went long when they had to. I think Méabh had a chance in the first couple of minutes. That was a bit of pinball in the box. He toe poked it wide. That could have went in. Wood had another chance. This was all within the first 15 minutes, and Kerr McEnroy was absolutely exceptional. His goal was really well taken. The way he reads the game, him and Lunny between them were excellent. The more I watch McEnroy, the more I think he's a proper player. And I know I've highlighted centre midfielders recently, but you don't get a centre midfielder these days. You get an attacking midfielder, you get a defensive midfielder. Kerr McEnroy is somebody who's smack in the middle, scores a goal, puts his foot in, does all the dirty work, and technically very gifted as well. So big fan of his. He's really hit the ground since he's come in. And Bang was brilliant as well. I thought Shelbourne deserved the Paddy Barrett sending off. I thought was never ever sending off. As a player, sometimes you see something developing, you make a sliding tackle and the grass brings you in. You can see Paddy pulls his legs back, but there's going to be contact because he's made a sliding tackle. People saying he's out of control. Very hard to be in control when you're making a sliding tackle, to be honest with you. So he's out of control. I think it's a yellow. It's a yellow. It's not even a strong yellow. It's just a yellow. And the referee, within a second of blowing his whistle, had the red card out, and I thought, it's right under your nose. You haven't given yourself any breathing space. And the referee was actually quite good throughout the game. And look, the Shamrock Rovers fan, as I was walking across the pitch the other night, came down and gave me a bit of stick and said, you're Pat's this and you're Pat's that. You never give us any sort of kudos. He should mute for the next couple of minutes, because Shamrock Rovers I thought were really, really poor. I thought they were so undercooked, but largely explainable given the league race. Lopez, Honohan, Michael Noonan and a couple of others were missing. I just think Shelbourne wanted it that little bit more. I know Shamrock Rovers would have won the league, but Shelbourne thought, you're not taking it off us. You will be champions, but you're not getting it off us.
Yeah, and Shamrock Rovers have to play Pats for that game in terms of clinching it. But how do you feel Stephen Bradley would be responding to that in the dressing room, knowing him as you do and having been in that environment?
I'd say at half time, I'd say the lads got the hairdryer treatment, because it's the most dominant I've ever seen any team in the first half in Tallaght Stadium. And we played some really, really big clubs in Europe. We did some big teams came to Tallaght Stadium, and we always kind of held around. I thought Rovers stayed in the dressing room for the first half, and I've been the one to give them probably the most compliments over the course of the season. They were my favourites to win the league, which they still will at the start of the season. So I've given them plenty of plaudits this year, but I thought the first half they were really poor. Like what Keith said, it looked like Shelbourne wanted it a little bit more. I thought the trio of Henry Francis, Lunny and McEnroy, I thought they dominated the game. And it's very, very unusual to say that, because I know Keith mentioned the lads there at the back that were missing, and Michael as well. But Rovers still had their strongest midfield out. They had Matt Healy, they had Dylan Watts, so they had got their top players in there, Danny Mandreu, Graham Burke, so they had the players in there. But I thought that the Shelbourne trio, I just thought it looked like they wanted it a little bit more, which is strange to say, because I know Stephen, I know the culture that he's built there. They're a very, very driven group of lads. So I'd say that would have hurt them, especially in the first half. Now you could see, obviously, when the second half comes around, they come out and they're a little bit better. But I think that's mainly down to the sending off, which I never think was a sending off. I heard some people saying it was a definite red card. For me, it's definitely not a red card. It's not malicious. He's sliding. You can see when he's sliding, he actually pulls his feet back a little bit. If you want to leave a little bit on someone, you can put the studs up. You can. Everybody can say that. But the disappointing thing was how fast the ref done. He looked at the reaction of McGovern on the ground. He's saying he done a few roly-polies he did, and he thought, you know what, the red card was out straight away. You could see Paddy Barrett's reaction. He thought, what's going on here? Like, so that was a little bit disappointing, because I thought he did have a good game as well up until that stage. I thought Shells defended so well. Honestly, they went down to 10 men. I know Rovers had a couple of decent chances, but Ledwich clears one off the line. There's bodies on the line, similar to what Ireland were doing against Portugal. That's it, isn't it? Bread and butter football. So I was really, really impressed with Shelbourne. I think over the next few weeks, I think they will nip second place if they continue playing like they did against Rovers.
Yeah, and Shelbourne are away at Cork City tonight, actually, and Cork obviously on the brink, so there's a chance they could go down. But who will be replacing them? I think, Richie, you're a happy man.
Yeah.
If Shamrock Rovers couldn't get the champagne out, Dundalk did. So I know last week you said like you've so many friends and stuff from your time there, so you must be over the moon.
Yeah, delighted for them. I actually, Kieran Kilduff, I had a chat with him in the off season. He was looking to bring me up to Oriel, but circumstances didn't allow it. But Kieran, not just a good manager, he's a really good person as well. He is, so absolutely delighted for him. And it was well deserved as well. I know coming towards the end, people think, if they lose and Cove win, and there's all the different scenarios. But they conceded the least goals in the league. They scored the most goals in the league. They well deserve to go up. And my only concern now is how they react to going up, because I know they were part-time last season. Are they going to have to go full-time now? How are they going to react with the budget? Because I think they've seen the mess that they were in over the last couple of seasons and the change of ownership and stuff like that. So it's going to be really, really intriguing to see how they handle the transition from the First Division back up to the Premier Division.
Yeah, how far away do you feel Dundalk are in terms of like the squad they have? Obviously they will need to invest, which any team going up
Raf, they're miles away.
Yeah.
And sorry, I don't mean to interrupt there. I look at the infrastructure up there. Like, I went up when we played them up there last season when I was with Rovers. I couldn't believe it. It's the exact same as it was 15, 20 years ago. They might throw a lick of paint over some of the dressing room or whatever, but honestly, they're so far behind. It's incredible. And like what we talk about funding for academies and stuff like that, a club like that who really is a sleeping giant, or a one club town, they are very, very passionate people around the place. They could probably do a little bit more funding to boost the academy a little bit more. But that's where I said with the budget and stuff, they don't have the players that are good. They're probably not good enough to come up and be really successful in the Premier Division. I know they have the likes of Darryl Horgan, Ireland international, fantastic player. But I just worry about the lads around them. That are they going to be good enough for that step up, or are they going to become a yo-yo club? Like,
yeah, because it is a big jump.
Yeah, it is a big jump, and they will need a little bit of stardust sprinkled on top of what they already have. But I think it's brilliant, and what Richie says is true. I worry about them when they come up, but You know, I'm not a Dundalk fan, but I did a lot of commentary there a couple of years ago, and when they nearly ceased to exist, and then all of a sudden they bounced back into the Premier League at the first port of call. I think it's brilliant, and everybody at Dundalk should be getting a pat on the back, but they will also know that the hard work will start really, really soon. It's going to be difficult. You know, you look at the likes of Cork, who look like they're going to be relegated pretty soon, might even happen tonight. Look at the strength of their squad, and you look at Dundalk's squad, and you think Cork are a better team, and they've just come out of the Premier League, so Dundalk should be looking at that and thinking we do need a couple of players.
Yeah, and the playoff race just finished up. So Treaty United are on 45 points, Wexford just behind them, Longford Town, they're the three that are battling for that last position. But I think that brings us to a close here. So Keith and Richie, thanks for your time. I'll be joined very shortly by Rachel Graham and Méabh de Búrca. Be right back. All right, you're very welcome back to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast, and we've got a couple of other guests coming on now. So Rachel Graham, what do you think of our new digs?
It's very nice. It's nice to be here in person.
Very good.
Rather than behind the screen.
Yeah, and on a big screen there, Méabh de Búrca as well. Méabh, how are you? I think the last time I was chatting to you was during the Euros.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago nearly at this stage, but yeah, glad to be here virtually anyways.
Yeah, and Rachel, I suppose you were in a very plush environment, more plush than this place, as good as it is, not so very long ago. Because just I was looking at the Shelbourne FC Twitter, and there was a thing with the headline "A Decade in Red." Pearl Slattery and Rachel Graham were recognised for a decade of dedication and excellence at the Shelbourne FC networking and fundraising lunch in the Mansion House recently. So two stalwarts of the club, huge congrats. So obviously that kind of is exactly what it says on the tin, but you must have taken a lot of pride from that as well.
Yeah, and it was funny. It was done at the, like you said, the Mansion House, the fundraiser that the club held. But me and Pearl actually had no clue that we were getting this award. And it was funny. It was because it was a 3-course meal, and the dessert had come out, and it was like this big messy chocolate brownie. And myself and Pearl were kind of eating away, and Mossy Quinn got up on stage and started speaking about the women's club and it being 10 years old. And then he started saying, "Look, there's 2 players who've been there from the start, and so many appearances between them." And you know, I looked up from the table, and everyone was looking at me and Pearl kind of smiling and laughing. I was like, you know, something might be going on here. And Karen, who was sitting beside me, was on the board, and she just kind of leaned in and said, like, "I think you should stop eating that brownie." Me and Pearl, it was like all of our faces. And then it's a bit of a blur. Like Mossy just kept going on about the 2 of us, and eventually called us up on stage and, you know, gave us 2 lovely awards. But like we'd no clue it was coming. So look, the 2 of us were kind of rattling up on stage. We just were in pure shock. But such a nice gesture from the club. And look, 10 years, obviously it's flown by. A lot of lows, a lot of highs, but look, it's a brilliant club and delighted to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's probably better sometimes not to get the warning before having to go off stage sometimes, because you can end up overthinking things. But last week you told me that yourself and Pearl have sort of indicated that you're going to be carrying on into 2026, but this weekend was all about a number of retirements, Méabh. But the only thing in a certain sense was that there were great send-offs in a way, because let's say Kylie Murphy with a hat-trick, Áine O'Gorman signing off with a goal as well. It was poignant, but also in a nice way.
Exactly. It was great for the girls to finish on a high, especially those attacking players who like to get in the score sheet and who got on the score sheet so regularly throughout their careers as well. So yeah, really great servants of the league. I mean, Kylie, like that, similar to Rachel and Pearl, have been there from the start, and you know, she's synonymous with Ferry Carry Park. I think she'll be a huge loss for the club in particular. I think she really drove the standards down there, along with a lot of other players with her as well. And like you said as well, Áine O'Gorman, what a stalwart she has been, a trailblazer for the women's game, obviously domestically and internationally as well. And yeah, really two great servants.
Yeah, and Rachel, you were playing in the game that she obviously had her send-off in, which was a 9-goal thriller in the end. But even to sum up her career, 119 caps for Ireland, went to the World Cup as well, had been playing for the international team with 1 interruption since 2006. I mean, what else can you really achieve in the game?
This, yeah, look, like I played against Áine. I remember like under 14, 16, she was Stella Maris, I was Raheny, and you know, we played together for so long against each other. But look, she's been, you know, like all them things you said, like, you know, you can't get that without like ultimate dedication. Like, she's the ultimate professional. And like Áine's not, you know, she's not like an Ella Malloy where she's like super, you know, skillful player. Like, it's all hard work. It's, like I said, dedication. It's the will to win. She's probably the most competitive person I've ever come across. And, you know, to see her retire, it's obviously sad. And look, it's coming for us all, but I think for Áine, it's probably, I don't think it's the fact that her body kind of gave way. Like, you know, she was still probably one of the fittest players in the park on Saturday, but sometimes life gets in the way, and she's 2 young kids now, and probably just felt like it was the right time for her to hang the boots up.
Yeah, definitely a new chapter. And obviously she was on Sunday Sport as well, so that interview you can find on the RT website. But Karen Duggan as well, who is a very familiar face here, Méabh, in terms from an RT point of view with the punditry career, 35 caps for Ireland, and obviously it'll be very weird not seeing her wearing a P-Mount jersey, I suppose, on one hand, but then also the presence on the pitch in terms of someone who's a very deep thinker, and we get to see it from the punditry side of it, where she's very knowledgeable about the game, but on the pitch, and also all the structures around it as well in terms of Irish and world football.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, would have been her teammate with the Irish team, and one of her, I think, main strengths definitely was being able to read the game, just seeing things before they happen and that. And I think when she's playing that centre mid role, it's really vital, and she made a great contribution. And then I think in the past year or two, she's been reverting back to that centre back spot as well, where again you can see the whole pitch in front of you. And I think P-Mount used that to their advantage, and what a leader she's been as well. I know Áine had been there previous to her, and then she took on the role, and just you hear a lot of the young players, I think, coming through. That's what really these girls will have inspired them along the way. You can see a lot of photos of girls who would have been their mascots now playing with them and the likes of that, and it's just great to see that. And that's, I think, testament to the league being so consistent and sustainable as well, the structure of it, that you see other leagues in the world maybe that would have been overly ambitious at times, maybe going professional too early and then collapsing. Even the likes of the US League, it collapsed numerous times already. And it's one thing I say about the Women's Premier Division, is that the right structures are in place to allow it to go on. And I think this is only the start really of the retirements. I would say down the line, then there will be more to follow. But it's great that those players have been in the league so consistently as well. And Karen's presence on the pitch will definitely be missed, but I'm sure we'll get to see plenty of her off the pitch going forward as well. And it's exciting to see that kind of next chapter for her as well. Yeah,
for sure. And I suppose, Rachel, Méabh's already kind of mentioned Kylie Murphy in terms of her impact there. You've played against her consistently for a long time. Like, she's obviously synonymous with Wexford. And then when you think over 300 appearances for the club, over 100 goals, that's going to be a huge miss.
Yeah, and look, obviously, she's going to be a huge loss for Wexford. She's been there from the very start. She's been captain from the very start, their leader. She leads them off the pitch, but even on the pitch, you can see she's a true leader, and all the girls listen to every word she says, look up to her. So she's a huge loss. She's been such a servant. I don't think she could have gave any more to the club. Be interested to see if she stays on in some sort of role. I know the other girls have kind of gone down the coaching road and done their badges, but I'm not sure she has. So I'd imagine they want to keep her in the club in some role, given how big she's been. But I mean, like you said, the amount of goals she scored there, 126 I think it was, and like, she didn't even really play up front. She was more so a midfielder to score all them goals. So look, she's been amazing. And like, anytime I think of the league, it's, she's one of the first faces that you would think of. She's been there from the start, like a couple of us, and seeing the growth of the league. We've played, and when the games weren't in stadiums, when there was no crowds, no fans, no coverage. So she's been there. She's obviously played, kept it at a good level, but she's been the one to kind of push standards. You've had to push standards within the clubs to demand better, and she's done that for Wexford. So look, she'd be a huge loss, but I think she got the perfect send off Saturday, a hat-trick and a nice guard of honour onto the pitch, and look, she'll definitely be well remembered in the club for a long time. Yeah, and Méabh, I suppose another loss from a Wexford point of view would be Rianna. Jarrett obviously wasn't really involved this season in terms of on the pitch, and we know her very well in here also from the punditry point of view. But I suppose her career is all about perseverance, because the number of ACL injuries that she would have had to overcome.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I suppose, the thing that maybe hindered her career was those injuries. I think she would have maybe seen a lot more caps, in particular Irish caps, and with more achievements to go with that. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible again for any young player watching on to come back from 3 ACLs. Is just, to come back from one, we talk about it as great, but to come back from 3 is just incredible, and to be back on the pitch after that is really testament to her and her character as well. And like that from a punditry perspective, it'll be great to have her experience, and I think she is going down the coaching route. So I think she'll be able to kind of impart that knowledge onto the next generation, which is huge. But yeah, she was a great servant again for Wexford and with her clubs abroad. But I think in particular those of us with the league at home will really opposition defences, I'm sure, will be glad to see her name on the list of retirees. But she was such a good goal scorer, so so many different attributes to her game, but really she had just such an eye for goal as well, and she scored some important goals too for Ireland.
Yeah, and in terms of Rachel, in terms of going down the coaching role, obviously we've seen a bit of news this week as well with Laurie Ryan, which is a great thing in terms of female coaches taking over the job at Treaty United. So obviously I think it goes without saying, a huge leader on the pitch when she was captain of Athlone, and this is an opportunity to impart that in a very different way now.
Yeah, definitely. And look, it's always great to see, you know, ex-players, I think, coming through, and you'll probably start to see it more now where we are having them kind of big player retirements. And obviously Steph Roach has done the same. She went in at Rovers, and then Laurie Ryan obviously announced as the new treaty manager. And we spoke last week about, you know, the kind of sudden departure of Sean Russell, and obviously they wanted to announce Laurie was coming in was the reason for it. But look, she was, you know, a good player on the pitch, a real leader, like you said. Hopefully she translate that now into her manager role. And look, I don't think she's managed before, so it's a big task. It's going to be probably a lot of learning on the job, I would say. So look, she probably get good people in around her who she can, you know, maybe mentor or, you know, guide her. So look, she's a good squad there in Treaty as well. They're really one of the up and coming teams. So look, Sean has done a good job as well, and obviously Laurie, you know, hopefully is going to do the same and push them on a bit further. But look, it's great to see the ex-players and the players we're used to seeing staying in the league and being kept on as manager. So like we said, we might see Áine, we might see, you know, Kylie, or I know Rianna coaches underage international for us. So hopefully we don't lose these players from the game.
Yeah, and she has a UEFA B licence, Laurie Ryan, as well. And I suppose John O'Sullivan not a big surprise that he's got the job now at Athlone permanently. Obviously, I think, as Rachel mentioned last week, it was something he had been kind of saying that he was very interested in. And I suppose the timing is good going into a cup final as well.
Yeah, it gives that bit of kind of certainty, I suppose, going into next season for the players as well as for John as well. And I think he even mentioned, you know, over the weekend that he inherited a great squad and a great team of players. So that's definitely evident, I think. So I mean, in terms of the short time with the club, he's done what he came in to do in terms of he's brought them the league title, and then obviously heading in, hopefully from their point of view, hopefully that they're going to do the double, although I'm sure Bose will have a lot to say about that too. But yeah, he seems to be, I know he works as high performance, you know, in that realm outside of Athlone, so I think he'll bring that experience, and yeah, it seems to be going well for them. I'm sure next season then he might look to maybe put his own bit of stamp on the team as well. And yeah, I mean, from a recruitment point of view, it's going to be very interesting to see will he be able to retain the players that they had recruited this season, or whether he'll have to change things up.
Yeah, and the cup final this Sunday, 3:00 kick-off, so Athlone Town against Bohemians, as just mentioned there. And Rachel, I suppose, I think 4 seasons in a row before this, Shelbourne have been in it, so it must feel weird for you not to be sort of building up to a final at this stage.
Yeah, and look, obviously, you know, we lost the league last year as well, but we still had the cup final to look forward to, and obviously don't have it this year. But look, I mean, you can't be selfish, you can't be in it every year. We obviously just didn't do enough to be in it, but look, it'd be good to see a new face in there in Bowes. And look, I do think Bowes are being a big crowd, which is a big thing of the cup final. The attendances have dropped. We had a big one in, it was 2023, and then it's kind of dipped down. Sorry, it was a big one in 2022, then it dropped down again. So I think that's a good focus that we need to get. And I think Bowes are being a big crowd, in fairness. Not their first opportunity to win it. They obviously lost the All-Ireland Cup, but, you know, potentially their first bit of silverware for the club, and came into the league in 2020. So they have grown, you know, quickly. They've got better every year, and you know, to be in this final now, it's a huge day out. It's a big occasion. You know, you have to enjoy all of it. So I'm sure they will. But look, yeah, it's going to be a big day for the club. And look, hopefully, you know, maybe we might see a new face, new name on the cup. But I'm sure Athlone will have other ideas.
Yeah, obviously they're going for the double. And Méabh, I suppose you won it in 2007 with Galway. What do you remember, I suppose, the occasion and the build-up, and I suppose the media interest at that time? Because obviously it's a very different time to the way it is now.
Yeah, exactly. Almost 18 years to the day now. It was either today or tomorrow. I can't remember the exact date, but yeah, it's you know, it's going to be incredible. I think in particular for Bowes, like Richard said, first chance to win the FAI Cup. They'll have bring in, I think, the disappointment of losing that All-Ireland Cup final on penalties with them into this. But then on the flip side, obviously Athlone have the disappointment of getting hammered 6-1 in the final last year, and they won't want a repeat of that, particularly with the double, a chance of the double too. So it's going to be a huge occasion. I think Bowes, their under 19 team won the League Cup there only yesterday, so they'll be kind of looking to build off that momentum as well, I think, because they have great structures underage feeding through to their team. And yeah, I think they're just going to try to enjoy the build up to the week. It's a special week, and it is the one cup, the one piece of silverware I think that any player playing domestically wants to win. So like that, any chance to win the FAI Cup would be a big occasion for them. And yeah, I'm just hoping for a more competitive game than last year's final. I'm sure Rachel will disagree. I don't think they'll have minded how they won it, but yeah, I think obviously Athlone are the overwhelming favourites. We're all expecting them to win and get the job done, but I think Bohs have been really building, and their semi-final win against Treaty was testament to that. They got their game plan really right, so I think they're going to be really prepared, and really looking forward to the game.
Yeah, and obviously Athlone have more experience of these cup finals. Obviously, you've come across them multiple times. The 6-1 last season also included in that. Did the nerves change the more times you play in that final, in the build-up? Is it easier sort of to deal with it the longer you go on? Because that's the advantage Athlone have now, I suppose, compared to Bohs.
Yeah, and look, that's something that someone always says. It's don't play the occasion. But I think the best advice you could give to someone that you need to know it is occasion. It's not the same as a league game. You need to be prepared for. There's a lot more publicity around the game. You're going to do a lot more promotion, like even emotionally, like you're so drained. Like they're probably thinking of that final since they've beaten Treaty in the semi-final, and their focus. Look, I know you've league games to play, but reality is your focus is on that big day out, and probably all this week, you're thinking about it, and even the day is different to a normal league game. It's a much bigger build-up. You're probably eating pre-match as a team, so look, there is an element to it where you need to accept that it's not the same and be prepared for it, but. Athlone have been there and done it. They've won it before, so they know what to do and they know how the day runs. And look, Bohs had the final in Wexford, but it's not as big of an occasion as this one will be. So I think Athlone will have the advantage like that. But if I was to say anything to the Bohs players, it's kind of mentally prepare yourself for that side of the game as well.
Yeah, and I suppose tactically, Méabh, I suppose final point on the final, how do Bohs best approach this? Because I think, as Rachel has told us multiple times, Athlone's fitness levels are through the roof, and obviously Bohs have been a coming team, but will they have to sit back and hit it on the counter, or is their best bet playing in a different way?
I think they'll be doing that all right, like I said, just soaking up that pressure and trying to hit them on the counter attack. They've also, I think set pieces might be a big one for Bohs, and the likes of Roisin McGovern in there, who's really, really good in the air, and then alternatively, like from defensive set pieces, where we know Athlone are so dangerous. They've Rachel Kelly in goals, so they are very solid defensively, Bohs, and the likes of Alana McAvoy as well on the counter attack with that pace. They could pose some problems to Athlone, but we know how steady and tight Athlone are. Only conceding 10 goals in the league this year is just phenomenal. So I think Bohs will be happy enough maybe not to have that much possession, and I think they'll have, even recently I was at I was working on the game, the semi-final Treaty versus Bohs, and Bohs had the analysts up in the gantry as well, analysing everything, so feeding it back down to their management team too. So I think they'll have their homework done, and have everything done as to be as best prepared as possible, and that's all they need to do. I think they need to have a perfect performance, and they need to hope that Athlone slip up.
Yeah, and silverware is obviously the big thing they're looking for. But what we're going to do now is whether any Athlone or Bohs players get into the team of the season. So we've got you to between the both of you to pick your team, your 11 for the season. So Rachel, I suppose starting with goalkeeper, there's a lot of options. There's one at your own club who would probably have a good shout for it, Megan Plashko as well at Athlone. But who have you plumped for?
I think you've said it. I think it's Megan Plashko for Athlone. I think she's had 12 clean sheets. When we played them in Tallaght, which was a big game, a big kind of title decider. She showed up with player of the match. She was excellent. So that's what you need from your keeper if you want to win at, and you need your keeper to be winning games for you, not costing you games. And look, she's been excellent all year. They've got her in this year. I'm imagining she's probably one of the first names they're going to want to keep. And like Méabh was saying, sometimes it's hard when these players come in that they're not here for a lifetime. They might want to do a year or 2 years, but imagine she's someone that they're definitely going to want to keep. She's been excellent. really remember having any kind of bad mistakes throughout the year. So I think for her, like she's very deserving of the Keeper of the Year.
Yeah, and Méabh, your back four, who have you kind of plumped for here?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I suppose it probably won't come as much of a surprise, but that Athlone dominate my back four. I already mentioned how few goals, conceding only 10 across the league, across 22 games is just incredible. But I suppose starting off at right back, it's not an Athlone player I've gone for here. It's a Galway player actually, and it's Aoibhinn Costello, who she's very versatile, I think. She's played across the back line throughout the year, as well as midfield, and even ending up in attacking positions too. But she's so versatile, and I think she's been Galway's most consistent player as well this season, in my opinion. And at 21, she took over the captaincy role, the vice captain role there from Lindsay McKee when she was absent from the team at times this season. And yeah, like I said, at 21, it's just incredible to see what kind of future as well will be ahead of her. She has such potential, and I would have played with her briefly during my time, but it's just I think she's had a really, really good season for Galway, who've obviously finished third in the table, so they had a lot of players that impressed this season. And then going to the centre backs, here I picked Kylie Shine and Natalie McNally, again Athlone centre backs pairing. There was this was probably the toughest spot really to pick. I thought Pearl Slaughter as well stood out for Shelbourne throughout the season, but I'd say I've had her in every team of the season the last few years, so might be a chance to give others a go. But yeah, Kylie Shine, she's one of the few locals there for Athlone this season, and I think it's really important to have that link too, that although they did recruit well, that they kind of have that link to local as well. And she chipped in with a goal there lately too, as well as McNally beside her, 26, so she's kind of in the prime of her career, and I think the two of them really settled in and formed a great partnership too. And yeah, I think when you look at Athlone's only loss obviously against Peamount there 2 weeks ago, I think it's no surprise that none of Athlone's starting back four are on the pitch when they conceded that late goal as well. So I think they've been really consistent. And then finally at left back, I went for, again, it was a difficult one. You could put the likes of, I thought Leah O'Leary stood out, though she plays not Leah O'Leary, Leah Doyle even, both left-sided players, but I thought she stood out for Shelbourne as well. But here, I went for Shauna Brennan, very neat player. I think she kind of links up well out of the back, makes them play out easily, and I think her link-up play with Maddie Gibson on the left was one of the kind of great elements to Atlone's play this season. So that would be my back four.
Yeah, and on to the midfield now, Rachel. Did you include yourself, and who did you end up picking in the end?
No, I definitely didn't include myself. I think the first one I picked centre mate was Hannah Weish off Athlone. I actually think she's been the best player in the league. Any position she's excellent. She's come in this year. She can score a goal. She's defensive. She can get up and down the pitch. She really is, a really top quality player. And like I said about the keeper, I'd imagine she's, definitely one that they're definitely going to want to keep. She was excellent. And beside her, I've put Aoibhinn Clancy in. I thought she's just been so good for us. Obviously had such a tough personal time throughout the year, and still managed to stay strong and play on. And she's been excellent. She came from Wexford this year, and it took her no time to settle in. She's been like Hannah, she's up and down the pitch. She's an athlete, and we seen that she was called into Carla's squad. And I'm not sure if she's in this squad now, but I know she's on the extended list, so she's getting herself back in and around there. So look, she's only young as well. She's only 21, I believe, 21 or 22, and like a huge future ahead of her. She's so good. She's probably one of the best signings I think we've ever made. So for me, she's the two of them in the middle. And look, probably two mentions that I'd give as well as Ella Malloy's obviously has been so good, and I thought Ava Brennan for Bows as well, but they've just missed out. And right wing then, like Méabh has gone with Athlone. I think Roisin Malloy has been excellent up and down. She really caused us a lot of trouble in that game in Athlone against them, so I think she's been excellent. And even in that Champions League game, she was excellent as well. And I've actually gone Katie Lawley then for the left winger. I think she's been, she's a really good young player coming through. A player who can run at players, dribble at players, go by players, and they're hard to come by as well. So I think Katie Lawley for Treaty has gone on my left wing. Yeah,
and then I suppose the final part of this is up front. Méabh, who have you gone for in this area of the pitch?
Yeah, I'm glad Katie Lawley in there in midfield, because she'd definitely be pushing as well for one of these two attacking spots. But I went for Rachel's teammate. Firstly, Mackenzie Anthony. She was a really great addition again to the league. And alongside her then Kelly Brady as well, who obviously finished as the top goal scorer in the league. But yeah, I was particularly, I think, impressed by Mackenzie Anthony. And if we were looking at the goal scoring, I suppose the goal of boot maybe in a different metric, if we were to see who's most efficient at scoring goals, I was calculating it out, and actually Mackenzie Anthony averaged a goal every 76 minutes she played this season, whereas Kelly Brady averaged a goal every 98 minutes. So obviously Kelly Brady gets that golden boot, but Mackenzie Anthony was definitely the most efficient across the league this year. But I think the two of them together would be frightening if we saw them two in action for any team, but they've both been really impressive in front of goal.
Yeah, and we spoke about Kelly Brady last week in terms of the potentially being a call up to Carla Ward's squad for the Belgium games. We might just touch very briefly on that because the squad's being named on Wednesday, Méabh, and I don't know what you make of the potential case for Kelly Brady, but are there any new faces you expect, or is it going to be quite difficult to do that given the need for consistency, because these are two very important legs of a playoff to try and get into League A, the Nations League?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a time for much experimentation from Carla Ward, but one place I think we'll see a change will be in goals, because I believe Courtney Brosnan is out injured as far as I know anyway. So that's going to be a real headache, I think, for Carla Ward. You look at the likes of Sophie Whitehouse there, she's in top form now with Charlton Athletic in the WSL too, so she's yet to be capped though, so that's going to be a tricky one. Will Carla Ward go with her, or maybe Grace Maloney, who's obviously deputised when Brosnan was unavailable before, and she's doing well with Sunderland this season too. And then you look at who might she pick as a third keeper. The likes of Katie Keane is probably up there, but also, there's been plenty of keepers throughout the league this season. I think impressing Badana, Williams, O'Sullivan, plenty of those, but that'll be interesting. And then, yeah, it's just a case of, will she go with the tried and tested, or will she pick a couple of new players? You look at the likes, the experience, say Megan Campbell, Rusha Littlejohn haven't had much game time in between the last camp against the US and now, so you'd imagine they'll still be in given their experience, but yeah, it'd be nice again to see a couple of representations from the League of Ireland. Aoibhinn Clancy I think has done nothing wrong between now and then, and whether she'll pick them. And Kelly Brady, I think personally, I don't think she'll be selected, although I would like to see her in, and I would love to see her given a chance, because I thought she's really, really impressed this season.
Yeah, and I suppose the final point before we go, Rachel, obviously the news of the LOI Academy funding, 3 million. We spoke about it a little bit earlier on the podcast. Now, this obviously impacts the women's game as well. So in terms of contact hours, this is going to be really good on that front. And I suppose at the same time as well, coaching opportunities. We've talked about people going into it in terms of going into management, but this potentially adds more new faces.
Yeah, look, it's a huge announcement for the league, so it was a brilliant day, and credit to Will Clark, who really pushed for this, so it was a huge announcement. But look, it's just good for overall academy. It's not necessarily good for boys side or good for girls side, and look, we don't exactly know what way it's going to go, because originally you applied for 4.5 to get and then they end up getting 3 for, I'm pretty sure it has to be used before to 3 full-time roles. That's just wages to go on as academy director, head of coaching, and an administrator for each club. So look, it's huge. I'm sure people are kind of doing these roles anyway, but they're probably volunteers, and they're probably going to their full-time job in the day and then having to do this in the evening. So for them to just have that be solely their job is only going to benefit the players coming through. And obviously Brexit now, players can't go abroad till they're 18, so we have to give them the best opportunity to reach their potential, and this is going to be huge towards that. So look, it was a brilliant day for the club. I think players will definitely benefit. Coaches are definitely going to get better with this. More time, more contact hours. So I think for everyone overall, it's going to be brilliant. Probably won't see it for a few years, reaching through to our top international levels. But look, a huge day for the League of Ireland. It's been, like a long time coming. It's something that we've needed a long time. So a brilliant day. And look, hopefully I know it's a multi-year deal, so hopefully it just continues on forever basically, and it's not cut after a couple of years.
Yeah, it's very much needed. And anyway, at this point, we're nearly finished now. So just to remind you as well, Ireland versus Armenia live on Tuesday on RT2 and RT Player, also live radio commentary as well. We'll be reviewing that on next week's podcast, as we will the Women's Cup final that's happening on Sunday as well. So Rachel, thanks for coming in, and Méabh, thanks for joining us today as well, and slán go fóill.